Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Ask the Trainer session. My name is Jonas, and with me is Noseman. And
Hello.
yeah, we're from the Maxon training team. And today we are going to take your questions. But before we do that, first of all, I want to encourage you to write down your questions, and not just on a piece of paper, but into the chat so we can read them. The best way to do that is to capitalize the word question in front of your question so we can more easily see what the question is. Yeah, then what you can see here is the Maxon events page, and I'm going to paste the link here as well. So let me do this. Here we go. And here you can find all the live streams that we are doing. So today, the Ask the Trainer, but also tomorrow, VFX and Chill, which is going to be amazing as always. Hashi and Seth are doing a fantastic job on these, and also Michael, of course. Then next week, we are streaming our NAB presentations. And then next week also, there is another demystifying post-production on Monday, and we've got several live events coming as well. So just in case you didn't find yet where you can watch the live streams from NAB, you just go to the main Maxon channel, and here you can see the streams already, and you can be notified. For everything else, like the recordings of Ask the Trainer and demystifying post-production, you can always go to the Maxon training team YouTube channel. And first of all, let me go back a little bit and just paste the NAB live streams link here. And then also the one to the main Maxon training team channel. Here we go. All right. So this is where you can find all the recordings and a lot more stuff, like quick tips and stuff like that. Then another thing that is quite cool, especially when you are a beginner, we've got this new updated Cineversity here. Also, here's a link for that. And the cool thing about that, as I said, we have Getting Started series for Cinema 4D, Redshift, Universe, ZBrush, but it's going even further. If you click that button, you can find Getting Started series also for Forger, VFX Suite, Magic Bullet, and Trapcode. And there's also a lot more here. Then the next one, if you are interested in becoming a certified pro user or Cinema 4D trainer, just go to the certification website. It's this one. Give me a second. Here we go. And yeah, here you find all the useful information to get this started. For example, the list of certification topics that is a perfect start to find out what you know, what you don't know, and some of these entries here, some of these bullet points are also populated with links that you can click, and you will be forwarded to either a quick tip or the Cinema 4D online help, stuff like that. And last but not least, I want to show you the Ask the Trainer exclusive wear store, where you can get one t-shirt for free if you just enter that website. I'm going to paste the link again. Here we are. And yeah, you will be asked for a passcode, and the passcode is now also in the chat. It's Redshift Renders, and you type that in, and then you can order one t-shirt for free, and you only have to pay for the shipping. Right. All of that being said, let's jump into Cinema 4D here, and let's see if we already have some questions. And I know that we already have some.
Can I address a couple of questions which are very quick without showing anything? So reply to Mariana Mudayan, and with the new cloth tag in simulation, the soft body tag is almost useless. Well, it's soft body. It's not meant to do other things, and I would say it's far from useless. If there's a specific case where you find as a soft body or as a cloth body, it doesn't behave properly, that you need to let us know, so we can either make a tutorial or see what else can be done. But we cannot expect something that was made for a particular thing to work in another context in the same way. And at the same time, because it's similar, FLA dude, is there a way to get traditional rigid bodies to interact with the new simulation system? This is the question. Under gravity and so forth. Yes and no. So it's a one-way interaction. The real answer, the technical answer is no. There is no understanding, there's no communication between the rigid body, the bullet system, and the new soft body. But what you can do, if you want a one-way interaction, is to use rigid bodies and at the same time make them soft body colliders. They will affect any soft bodies that hit them, but you won't get the pushback. You won't get the cloth changing the direction of the rigid body. It's only the rigid body that's going to do its thing, and then as a moving collider will affect any soft bodies that are there. So it's a one-way thing. It's mostly a hack. So it's currently, you cannot combine these two things. So let me take this off. You can take it from here, Jonas.
I can take it from here, thank you. So there was one question that I found really interesting. Well, there were multiple questions already, and please keep them coming because that we are here for today to reply and answer your questions. So the first one was, which was the first one?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. So let me bring.
There you go. Here it is.
Okay. From Greg, I want to do 3 things to a set of clones. First, randomly assign redshift materials to each shader switch and user data. 2, vertex map across all clones, and 3, assign a cloth tag to all of the clones. All right, let me start with the answer to question 2 and 3. There is a solution for that. Let me just, bring down the size of this clone here. And, well, it's not a clone yet, but now it is. I just alt-clicked the clone, create cloner icon or button, and this created me a few things here, a few clones. So I'm also going to create a plane because the question was about simulation as well. So the way you would do that is, first of all, a vertex map. And the vertex map can be created directly on the cloner. But there is some, well, it doesn't work reliably or in a reliable way every time. So whenever something is not behaving as expected, put it into a connect object. So we put the cloner into the connect object, and now on the connect, I create from other tags a vertex map tag. And now you can see that we have that vertex map already, and I'm going to create a linear field. And here you go. So this is the vertex map on the clones, and it's working across all of them. Then how can we assign cloth simulation to that? Simply by right-clicking and then simulation tags, and let's go with, let's just go with a cloth tag. And now you can see that they are falling through that plane because the plane is not a collider yet. So simulation tags and collider. And now you can see, well, it doesn't really work how we expect, but that's because we don't have enough segments here. So let me just bring up the segments, because more segments means that cloth simulation is less stiff. All right, so now we have the cloth simulation on all of these clones. If we want to restrict the effect of the cloth simulation to some of the clones using the vertex map that we created. Let's just use any parameter. Like here, bendiness is already open. So I'm just going to drag and drop that vertex map in here. And now you can see that some of these are already very stiff and some are very bendy. So let's do it like this. And now we can move this around, and it's actually a pretty cool effect, I think. All right, so now what if you want to create different materials for these? Well, right now everything is in a cloner, and that means that, well, the connect is just like killing all of the separate settings for, or yeah, the colors. Let's put it like that, and parameters for the separate clones. So what we can do is we can put this into a fracture object. Oh, Noseman, I can hear you typing.
Yes, I am typing.
Yes,
I'm typing replies just for people to know that I'm busy here. I'm replying to alias wavefront Maya 4D.
All right. So in the fracture object, I'm going to set this to explode segments and connect. This will make every single clone, a clone again. But still, everything will work. And now we can, for example, use the random effector or something, or also a plane effector with a random field in it, and just set the color to something from this. All right, now we have different colors here. So we could use these in Redshift to colorize the clones. So let me do this. I'm going to go to the render settings and set the renderer to Redshift. And now I'm going to create a Redshift material and add it to the fracture. And yeah, here we go. So it's in there. All right. And now let me just open up the node material. And what I want to do is I want to get the color information. So in theory, I should just grab some user data, color user data node, and plug it into color. And if I, well, one thing that I really like about the node editor, although the parameters are the same here, I still like the parameters to be part of the node editor. So I'm gonna use a MoGraph color, and in theory that should work. So let me start the IPR, and there we go. So we can already do that. So now the original question was randomly assign Redshift materials to each shader switch and user data. So let me see if that works as well. Because that might be a challenging thing. Do you have an idea how you would do that?
What was the question? I can't multitask. What are you trying to deal with?
So we want to create, let's say, 2 different materials.
Yep.
And one of them, they should be randomized across the clones. So what I would try first is just
random color. You need random color. The random color is going to give you colors from 0 to 1 in a random fashion. And you need to put that in a shader switch.
Yes, that's what
and the shader switch allows you to select the input of the material using indices 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then you need to remap the number of clones to 0 to 1 using a change range, and so that the switch node So you have only 2. So basically, you need currently you don't. Do you need anything?
Let me quickly go to the random
that.
effector, because one thing that, and
Yep.
let me switch the shader to input 1 or to ID 1, and let me move this to the side for now. And what I'm going to do here in the random effector is in the effector there is a min max, and because it's a random effector, it's going from minus 100% to plus 100%. But in this case, actually, if we don't want the colors to be too dark, it's always a good idea.
I want to interject. I want to
0.
interject here because this is something that gets everyone. Now, by default, if you go to your document settings, you will see that the color management is the typical linear, the basic, and the aces is controlled by Redshift. So if you go to the Redshift global settings, you will see that the color management is set in Redshift. Now, this poses a minor issue, and I'll tell you how to fix it. If you want the correct MoGraph colors, for example, what the random effector generates, to affect them properly in a linear fashion, you need to activate Cinema 4D's OCIO, not Redshift's OCIO. So you need to go to your document settings and set that to OCIO, OCIO. Yep. And now your random values, which are from 0 to 1, are going to propagate properly to the Redshift setup you're doing. Otherwise, because the colors are color managed, you don't get the linear. So you're going to get more chances of a certain color coming up than another. So you won't have a linear integration. You can try that not with a random, but with a linear field set to color from black to white. And you will see that if you want the cubes to be linearly colored, this is what you need to do. So for everyone that's watching, keep that in mind, that the Cinema 4D OCIO implementation is the one that gives you the correct linear values when it comes to MoGraph. And I'm done.
Yep. All right, cool. So let me get the MoGraph data over here. And in this case, so you would also just get the random color and then remap it. Or what would you do?
Sorry, come again.
So you would just create a
change range. Because what's happening now, the color user data, which is set to color, outputs a value from 0 to 1.
Yes.
If you want to select 3 materials using your switch, you're going to have 0, 1, and 2. So you need to take that 0 to 1 and map it to 0 to 2. So now it's going to give you 3 random ranges. And
so let's see if that works. Let's type this one into the shader selector.
Yep.
And maybe also let's solo this. Yeah, but that's exactly. Okay, so we got these values here. Everything is white. Why is everything white? That's a good question. Let me
What's coming in from the color user data?
Yeah. Let me bring this down. So here it's coming in from the color user data, and yeah, maybe some of the values are already past that value. Let me unsolo this. There we go. Yeah, that works. So it's still 0 to 1 because we have these 2 indices.
How many colors are you applying?
Sorry?
How many colors are you applying?
You mean how many shaders? Just 2?
Yeah. Why am I seeing more than 2 colors?
Well, because one of these has the color user data here. So.
Oh. Sorry.
This is.
You see,
this is
I wasn't paying
have.
attention. Why are you
Yeah.
replying to me? I'm not paying attention. I'm reading comments.
All right. So that's the challenge for today, because it's just the two of us, and we are both terrible multitaskers. So, all right. Let me just go to the next question then. Let's see, which one do we have here as well. Do you also want to take a question? I love this one. This one is great.
Which one?
In a cylinder
yeah.
with 120 segments in the rotation, how can I select the polygons, leaving a polygon of space between each one? From Anderson. Thank you for that question. It's a very cool question.
So Jonas has been waiting for months for someone to ask that question. So thank you so much.
Exactly. And as you may know, I'm a big fan of the of the formula effector. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to do that with the formula effector. So I'm going to show you the easy way first, which is a little bit less procedural, and then the procedural way. So let's create a cylinder. Here we go. And 120 rotation segments. There we go. And let's just, for the sake of ease, do this. And now we have this cylinder. Let me make it editable for now. All right. So I just hit the C button, or C key. That was wrong. So here we go. Now, we have something in Cinema 4D that is called symmetry. And we can enable symmetry. And as you can see here, whatever I select on one side will be selected on the other side. But we don't only have this kind of symmetry. So if you open up the symmetry settings and maybe just pin them, you can also set this to radial. And here we go. So if I, let's say, untick mirror, I can just select a few here, and they will be selected on these other sides too. So we know that we have 120 segments here. So what we could do is we set this to 60 and just select a single polygon, and then we would have selected every second one as well, and we could extrude those. This is one way of doing it. And of course, you can also set this, for example, to, let's say, 40, and then you would select every third one, or to 30, and then it's every fourth one, and so on, right? So this is something you can do. The other thing that I really like is using the formula effector or formula field. Both are working pretty much the same. Just let me go back to the procedural cylinder, because the good thing about this approach is that it works with primitives. So I can just go to other tags, create a polygon selection tag, and it's using fields already. So what I can do now is I can add a formula field. And the formula field is actually one of my favorites because you can do so many cool things with it. So let's create the formula field. And let me also just create a material, and let's restrict it to that polygon selection. And let me also make it red. So one of the, let's say, problems of the formula effector and field is that it seems to be very complicated, because we have this quite intimidating default formula here with a sign and subfields and so on. And that is something that can lead to, oh, I'm afraid of using that field. However, what you can do is you can untick or you can unfold this variable section. And here you see that there is, for example, a component index. So if we just want to use the polygon with the ID, let's say 150, we can do that. Let's find it. Doesn't seem to be up here. So let's go here. So this is the polygon with the index 150. Let's maybe go to 60. Then this is the one with the index 60. All right, here we go. So how can we make it so that we are selecting every second or every third or every fourth or 2 and then don't select another 3 or so? This can be done by using the correct formula here. And one of my favorite functions, of course, is to open up the help. And in the help, let me see if we have the list of possible formulas can be found under formulas. Okay, let's go there. This is what I'm searching for. And here there is one that is called modulo. Where's the modulo? Let me find it. Modulo. Here we go.
MOD parentheses, one number.
Yeah. I know how it works. I'm explaining.
I'm just being a smart aleck. Come on.
Yeah. So what is a modulo? Let me explain it. So there are. So let's just assume we are back in elementary school, and we want to divide one number by another number. So let's say we want to divide. Well, let's go with 0 divided by 3, 1 divided by 3. Watching me typing is always incredibly spectacular. So let's just stop at 4. 4 divided by 3. 4 divided by 3 equals. Okay. So, like, we are grown-ups. We know that there is something that is called decimals and so on. But back in the first or second grade, we didn't know that. So what we did was we said, okay, 0 divided by 3 is 0. And then there is a remainder of 0, right? Then if we divide 1 by 3, the result would still be 0, but the remainder is 1. Going further, 2 divided by 0 is still 0, but the remainder is 2. And then we have 3 divided by 3, and suddenly the result is 1, and the remainder is 0. And so on. So 4 divided by 3 is 1, and the remainder is 1. So if we have a look at the remainders, and we can continue that more and more, we get a sequence, which is 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and so on. That's the modulo. Modulo is looking for the remainder. And the cool thing about that is that we get those sequences. So let me go to the formula field again, and let's just use this modulo formula. So we type in mod, and then in parentheses, we type in ID, semicolon, and then the number that we want to divide this by. And then we can define if we want this, if we want the zeros or the ones in this case. So here we have every second polygon. Right? And if we divide this by 3, we get every third polygon in theory. Did I do something wrong? What is that? Should actually work. What's happening here? This. Okay, 4 works. Why does 3 not work? Okay, for some reason it has a problem with 3, not with 5. Okay, interesting. I'll investigate that later. So what if you just want to, let's say, have the sequence of 5, but select 2 and then have non-selected 3? Then you can go in here and just say, all right, if the result is bigger than 1, then do this or do that. Or in this case, this is the correct formula. Well, it's not. Apparently, it's not. So let me go. This result is supposed to be bigger than 1. That is not what I expected. So let me try this. Bigger than... Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, it does make sense. The problem here is it got me earlier. So in this case, the polygons are not counted like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the shell, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So
remove the cylinders, the caps.
The caps. If I remove the caps, then it works. So that's that was the problem. So if I put this to the formula that I actually wanted to have, then it works. So we have in this case now 3 selected and 2 not selected. So let me do this. All right. So that would be the answer to that question. Definitely have a look at modulo, because it's a really cool thing, and the formula itself is a really cool thing. I recorded quick tips about that topic, and another thing that I haven't recorded a quick tip about is my new mouse. That sometimes it's playing games with me. Like for example, now I just did some stuff, panning in the viewport, and suddenly the object was gone. So we can either hit the key S on the keyboard or the key O, or you can see here this arrow, which is pointing to the axis of that selected object. And if you click it, you will frame it.
That's magic. That's
it's
pure
magic. It's so magic. All right, so let me show you another thing that you can do with a formula field or effector. So I'm gonna create another cube, because we love cubes at Ask the Trainer. Cubes are our favorites. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think we need to do a whole session on really ridiculous ways of creating a cube, over complex, over engineered things, or a challenge. Anyone that makes the most complex, ridiculous cube wins something. I don't know, wins our eternal grace and appreciation or something.
Oh, that's a good one. So if you have a row of clones and you select the cloner and go to transform and to display index, you can see that every single clone has an index. I should have explained that earlier, because this is how the modulo works as well. It's having a look at the index and dividing that index by the number you define. However, we've got that index here. And so one of the simplest formulas you can use is the formula ID equals, right? So let me create a formula effector here. And by default, again, we have this intimidating default formula that is creating that sine wave thing here again. But what if we just type in ID equals, let's say, 4. We want the clone with the number 4. And let me adjust the parameters here. Instead of moving it to the left and to the right, we are going to move it up. So this is the one with the ID 4. And then we can also go to, hey, okay, we want the next one, ID 5. Right. So now that we have this, we can also make it so that we can control the position and rotation of this clone with an axis. And the way that works is by taking advantage of the axis of the effector itself. So let me rotate that a little bit and move it here. And the way this would work is under parameter, we have a transform mode and we have a transform space. And so now if I would set it to effector, you can see that the clone is already moving, but let me set the transform mode to absolute. So we are transforming it absolutely to in relation to the axis of the effector. So if I make the position 0, 0, 0, you can see that the clone is already in the position here. Noseman, can you please mute when you are typing?
Oh.
Thank you. So we don't want to affect the scale, but we want to affect the rotation. The thing is, nothing happened here. And the reason for that is that one of the parameters here needs to have a value other than 0. I don't know why that is, but it is that way. So I typically just type in 360 in one parameter, and suddenly you can do this. You can use that axis to move that clone or to rotate that clone. You can move that clone around. And let's just say that we create another formula here. So let's say we want to use time in here as well. So the ID equals time. Let's see what happens if we do that. All right, so it's flickering. And this is because whenever the time is 0, it's using, or whenever the time is an integer number, because time in Cinema 4D is in seconds and or in like real time, not just in frames. It's just calculating everything or recalculating this in frames for us to be able to use the frame count. However, now you can see that if I go away from 0, also the clone snaps back to the initial position, and then at frame 30, it's clone 1 that's going up here, and then it's going down again, and at frame 60, there's the next clone. There is a function for that, that you can just cut off any decimals. Let me quickly go to that list of formulas here again, and it is the truncate. So here we go. So here you can see that trunk minus 11 point whatever is going to minus 11. And that's what we need here. So we're going to type in trunk and then in parentheses t. And now we can have something like that. I think I misspelled it. There we go. All right. So it doesn't look too spectacular now, but what if you select the cloner and then add a delay effector, this one, and set it to spring mode? Now it starts to potentially be cool. And I always want to do the sound effects for stuff like that. So my sound effect would be...
I'm doing the sound effects. I do the sound effects, but you told me to mute myself, so...
Sorry. I will never ask you ever again to mute yourself.
Why did you ask me to mute myself?
So there we go. Yeah, and the cool thing is like a clock, for example, is also modulo. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Every single human on this planet knows what modulo is, but they don't know it. A clock face with 12 hours is modulo 12. So although we count in 24-hour days, at the 12 hours it starts from 1 again.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means if you do the division, so let's say you want to see what 1500 hours are. If you divide 15 by 12, you get 1, which is 1 full revolution of the clock. and a remainder of 3. So it's 3 o'clock. So the clock is modulo 12, exactly as Jonas said.
So there we go.
Okay, I have a few questions I want to maybe address and confuse people a bit, because everything's going so smooth. You're showing great stuff. I want to create a bit of chaos. I'm very keen to do that.
Cool.
Anything else?
Do you need the screen for that?
I will touch that button that says add to stream.
And
so,
yeah, you got it.
Let's see. Let's go to the question about the knot, right? So there's a question about a knot with simulations. And there's no automatic way. There are many ways to go about this. My preferred method is you draw a spline, which if you pull the 2 sides, you're going to create a knot. I think that's the hardest part. Then you can either sweep it using a cylinder or a line or something like that. What I like to do is get an end side, set it to 2, just to make something, a line with 2 segments, make it half. And let's add a sweep. Oh, there it is. And we create a ribbon. I'm going to make the ribbon a bit narrower so it doesn't intersect. Now, you could go around and move the points, but sometimes your intersections will be such where you need to twist it, and you can't do it on a point level. You have to go to the sweep and go down here in the details, and you can rotate parts of your sweep. You just control-click to add something, add a point here. But if you add more points to your spline, this is going to lose its, it's not going to be very accurate. So you just need to go and tweak it. But anyway, now we've solved one of the problems, and that's we created the ribbon. Now, the other thing is that for simulations, it's good to use pretty equally spaced polygons. So first of all, go to the spline. We're going to tackle these bigger polygons and the smaller ones. That's because the spline that defines the path is set to adaptive. So it's going to add more subdivisions where the curves are. Just set it to uniform. And the same for end side. By the definition, it's adaptive. And because it's straight, it doesn't have any intermediate points. So go to uniform. This is a good starting point to create some sort of knot. Now, let's go and remove from our project settings simulation scene gravity 0, just because I just want things to float around. And let's make this into a cloth. There you go, cloth. So it shouldn't do anything. I like to run things to make sure that there's no collisions. Without any forces, if there are no intersecting elements, then your surface should stay still. It's an interesting way to troubleshoot. Whereas if you do have certain intersections, let's say here we have intersections, if I press play, you will see motion happening because the points are trying to avoid themselves. So as a troubleshooting method without any gravity, if you want to check if in your simulation scene there are overlaps, just remove gravity and press play and see if anything moves. Now, we do have some motion. Look at that. I realize that these are too close, but I'm not going to bother with that. Now, the next course of action is to pull this side and this side. So let's go and make an object. Any object will do. I'm going to press Shift S to activate snapping, go to object mode, and I'm going to snap it here just so it can go closer, and then just scale it down. It doesn't matter where this is going to be. I'm just going to deactivate my snapping and move this over here. Good. And let's go and do the same thing. I'm going to control drag, copy it, press Shift S to snap, bring it here, Shift S again to remove snapping. Anyway, there you go, 2 objects. Now, we are going to use a connector tag. Simulation settings, connector tag. There you go. And the connector tag requires other or itself simulated objects. So we need to make these cloth objects. So go and make them cloth objects. Now, there's going to be one little problem with the cloth object, that we can't hand animate it because it's a cloth and the simulation takes over. But what we can do is go to the mix animation, select both tags, and just pin it or use force. The force is nicer because it softly pushes. So the force is a polite way to move things in their absolute position, whereas the pins is the really, really nasty, rude way. Just go there. Okay, so with force, it's nice, but if you want absolute accuracy, it's with pins, but it's not polite. So always be polite. And when I say force, every point get its own little wind force that's pointing in the direction of where the points are when you create your object. Anyway, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select the connector tag and I'm going to create, and nothing is created. That's because it's searching 1 centimeter around every single point of the object the connect tag is applied. And if I grow it, you'll see nothing happens again because we don't have an update live. I can do create now. I can make this really big. Let's go 30, create. Ooh, let's go more, create. There you go. But if you click update live, then you can actually go and see how many of the points. And just to explain this one more time, it exists as an explanation in one of my new tutorials I did on the News University. Wherever you apply this connector tag, it uses all the points of that simulated object, and it searches around this radius to find any other connected objects, other objects, or the same object if you wish to pin it to itself. And you can exclude other objects and all that. You can do a lot of stuff with this. So what we've done now is, let's say I'm going to go just to get a few points here. Anyway, this is good enough. Just make sure that you have these yellow thingamadoodles on both sides. It doesn't matter where you apply the connector tag. I could have applied a connector tag to one cube, a connector tag to the other cube, and not over here if I wanted to have different distances and so forth. But this is the fast way. Now what's going to happen if I activate my gravity now? So go to project settings and let's go to set to default, just so that we have something. Now, because these are using force, they may move a bit. I'm going to adjust the force if I need to do so, but the rest of the cloth is going to fall via gravity. And there's a knot. Imagine that. There's a knot. Let's always make this 300 frames. No, you don't have to, but I like to say that. So there you go. And the other way to do it is if you don't have gravity, you want to do fancy motion graphy stuff, what you can do, first of all, when you do simulations, always add a turbulence and make it, let's say, 25 to be subtle, and always change these. Because the more things you change, your colleagues think you're doing something very smart. There you go. And now I can take the cubes and just animate them away until the knot is tied. Let's select them both. Let's put their positions. Keyframe, let's take this one. Let's move to frame, let's say 130. Select this one, move it here, woink. And put my keyframes here. Then select this one, move it there, but doink. See, I can make noises, right? I can make noises. And there we go. And it's going to tie a knot. So this is how you'd make a knot. There are many permutations of this technique. I'm going to tell you, first of all, the limitations of this particular technique, right? So pay attention. Pay attention. Now, what happens is that the little polygons are not all equal. Because when the simulation starts, each polygon is reset at that particular size. So any settings you have here, bendiness and stretchiness and all that jazz, and the target length, 100%, this is the most important one, target length. This target length is based on the edge length of each polygon at the time the simulation starts at frame 1. This means that wherever you have bends, the cloth is going to appear a bit stiffer. A bit softer because it can bend more. Whereas where you have bigger polygons, let's say over here, it's going to be a bit stiffer. There is no way currently to tell it that, oh, assume that all these edge lengths are the same. This is something like a preformed piece of plastic, right? Imagine that, a cloth, but it's got it's preformed. It's going to have, it's going to be tighter here than here. If you absolutely want to have equal polygons, what you could do is make your spline use a, let's say, a spline wrap to bring it in. So when you start your simulation, you're going to have some sort of pre-roll. Pre-roll is what we do before the actual part of the simulation. So maybe the only part I want from the simulation is from here onwards. But the first 77 frames are absolutely necessary so I can reach this point. But that is the pre-roll. I would not render that. I'm not going to deal with that. But sometimes you need to pre-roll things. And by the way, see this, the tightness here and the looseness here, that's because of the different size of polygons. Because there's more tension here because the polygons were smaller. And as they try to stretch, they can stretch less because they were smaller. Now, talking about the pre-roll, what you could do, and I'm going to do a quick, just give you a very quick overview of how you can tackle this. I'm not going to finalize it. What I'm just going to take is this spline, go to an empty scene, paste it here, and let's say we got a plane. I'm just going to use a plane now because it has all the polygons already done. I'm going to make it thin and long and make my little square. So when this becomes a cloth object, because it's straight, the tension is going to be equal across the whole thing. So simulation, cloth, project settings, 0. Now, what I could do is say, take this. Oh, this could fail, but anyway, I'm going to say it. Spline wrap. And what I need to do is put the spline in here. So now we have the same thing we had with the sweep or something equivalent. But because of the spline wrap, we can actually offset it. Right? So bring it outside where the polygons are nice and equal. So I can go here and increase the number of segments here. There you go. And what I can do is tell this to have, because I want to animate it, so I need to have some sort of mix animation, maybe 5. I'm just pulling these numbers out of a hat. And let's get the spline wrap and say, there's my offset. And for the first, let's say 100 frames, just bring it in to whatever the default is, which is 0. And let's see now. So I can bring it in. So you can see now that it's coming in. And you shouldn't have those. See, now it folds here because the original tension is withheld. And then you do your animation with your cubes, right? So I wouldn't say it's the easiest thing, but, I have an idea. If you make this editable, if you make this cloth editable, because it already resolved those that tension by creating these pleats, this should simulate even better. But anyway, you have ideas to do stuff like that. That's what I wanted to show, that there are many ways to approach it. The sack itself, you can make a sack, you can fill it with soft bodies, you can stiffen up the neck, you can even do a PLA animation and do the knot on top. It's not necessary because with if you do, for example, I'm going to show it. I mean, it's just get rid of everything. Why not? That's what we're here for. So let's take a cylinder without any caps. Okay, if it fails, I'm just going to say that it's Jonas's fault. So let's get a cylinder here.
It's always my fault.
Thank you very much, Jonas. I feel much better now. And what can I do here? I'm going to make it editable because I'm going to go and I'm going to close polygon hole using a patch. Oh, not that. What are you doing? That one. Patch, like patch. And, is it a grid? What's the good one? Yeah, the patch, you can rotate it, the grid you can't. Anyway, so let's say this is my sack. Now, to make it more sacky, you can go and use a smoothing deformer and set the stiffness and increase this. So now we're getting something a bit more interesting. You can model it so it has some features on top. But anyway, and then do a CSTO, current state to object. I'm just going to show what this should look like. approximately. Now let's get rid of my, I got rid of my gravity. Let's go and select some edges. So UL to select edges, Shift, there you go. So what does a sack closing mean? It means that these things become smaller, okay? And you can go and use Jonas's trick to select every other and so forth. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use this selection. Let's convert this to a, control point mode. And let's go, if you control and click here, it converts the selection to whatever you click. Let's go and convert, set vertex weight, 100%, there you go. So I want to do something with these. What do I want to do with these on the cloth? That should be a very good question. What I want to do with this is go to my surface here and use a target length. And I want to tighten these up, okay? And let's say I want to tighten them to 20%, which is a fifth of their 20%. Okay, I misclicked. And drag this in here, so it's going to apply it only in those. Let's see what happens here. Boop. It's quite fast, of course, which means you can animate this. When you have these kind of things and it goes too fast, just add some keyframes. Let's set target length 100%, and over the next 150 frames, you can go to 20%. And you're just wasting 2 seconds of your life. There you go. And you have your sack. Oh, that turned out better than I thought. Okay, now about these ghost forces.
That's amazing.
Watch. Thank you very much. Watch the tutorials I've done on.
Well, you have to thank me because it's my fault.
Oh yes. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you. So the idea being that what we're doing here is creating some competing constraints, and that is the target length shrinking, the thickness may be too big, but the best way to mitigate this is to allow for stretchiness. So in this particular case, what we're doing, we're shrinking those points, right? We're shrinking them because we're telling the simulation to make these edges smaller. But at the same time, we're telling our object that we don't want any stretchiness. So the simulation, this movement is a way for the simulation to say, what do you want? Make up your mind. Do you want stretchiness or don't you want stretchiness? And they do that by punishing us and making this move around. So we're wondering what's going on. So let's increase the stretchiness to 20 and see if this is going to mitigate it. The ghost forces are gone. So always remember I call it, the video is called The Principle of Competing Constraints. And it's based on the immovable object paradox. When an immovable object meets an unstoppable force, that is a logical paradox that doesn't have a solution. So the same thing happens when you use competing ideas or competing instructions. I do not want stretchiness, says this, if it's 0. I want stretchiness because shrinking is negative stretching. So what is it, sir? What is it, madam? What do you want? And that's why by allowing one of the two constraints to have a bit more leeway in what it wants to do, it's like inflating an object using a balloon and telling this, nah, I want to inflate without bending and stretching. You can't do that. And the simulation does something like that and says, no, I'm going to move things around so to teach you a lesson. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about the knot. Shall I check another couple of things? I think
very cool. So yeah, I prepared another.
Please,
another.
Take it away, Jonas.
I'm going to take it away. So here we go. That's the scene that I prepared, and the question that I want to reply to is this one from Elias Wavefront Maya 4D. How can I create an effect where a collision on a mesh like a cylinder triggers a luminance shockwave spreading across the surface in both directions from the point of collision?
Beautiful question, by the way. Beautiful.
Very question. Very question. Yeah, very
Very
good
question. Beautiful.
It's a very question. Exactly.
Right. Who am I? Very question. Beautiful.
Thank you. So yeah, what I prepared here is a little simulation. I'm using the old bullet simulation engine to create this with some initial velocity, so that this ball is flying against the wall and then colliding and so on. And now we want some sort of shockwave here. And the way how you could do this is by using a vertex map. And so this is the wall where we want to have where we want to get the shockwave. And then I go down to other tags and create a vertex map. And a vertex map is basically, we had that earlier. I think we didn't explain vertex map. We just used them. A vertex map is basically a map that stores a weight value between 0 and 100% on each point of the geometry. And I can hear some clicking again.
Oh, you want me to mute myself? Okay.
Thank you. So I have this vertex map, and I want to create some weight here, because with vertex maps, I can create growth effects, or with fields, I can create growth effects. And one way to use fields is inside of a vertex map. So let me just drag and drop that sphere in. That's the object that is doing the impact. And by default, this will then result in the object using the points to create a weight. And here you can see it. So right now it's creating that weight. And let's repeat this. There's the weight, right? So we have a quick weight impact here, but as soon as the sphere is gone, it will leave here as well. So if you just want to make the weight like sticky, so to speak, you can use the decay field and just bring up the effect strength to 100%. And then you would have this effect. This is not what the question was. The question was how to create a growth effect, but you can also use that to, for example, use a displace deformer and just push this inwards, for example. However, let me delete this, and instead let's create a freeze field, because the freeze field is capable of also doing growth effects. So let me create this, and let's set the mode to grow down here. And as soon as I do that, nothing will happen, because it's a layer that is on top of the sphere layer, and it's set to normal blending mode. So let's set this to add. And as soon as we do that and press play, we've got a growth effect. So that's step one. Let's say we want to bring down the speed of this effect, and we can just bring down the effect strength. That's more or less the speed of the growth effect. There we go. That looks better. And we can also randomize this a little bit, because there is a subfield input for the radius. So we can use a random field in here to control the radius. Maybe first, let me set this to normal, and let's just have a look here. And we're going to scale this up a little bit like so. And then we're going to use this as the radius input. And then something like this is happening. And now we just need to read this and create the shading from here. And the way you can do that is, well, it works in Redshift, it works in standard. I'm going to show it in standard for now. So let me just create a new material, and let's add it here. Let's open it up, and then let's make this material a little bit darker. And then in the luminance, I'm going to create effect vertex map shader. And in here, I can just drag and drop the vertex map in. And now we have that here. And let me go up one step, one level, and just add a colorizer. And by doing that, I can tell this thing, this shape, to remap the values from black to white. So that's input equals output, more or less. But I can put the white into 50% gray and then copy the black one over to the other side. So now we remapped a gradient from black to white to a gradient from black to white to black. And this is how you create that effect. Let me quickly show you how you can do that in Redshift. How you can set this up in Redshift. So let me switch to Redshift, and then you would create a material. And same thing here, pretty much. You would add a vertex attribute node. And in here, we would use the vertex map. And then I would output the color into the, let me go down here to geometry, the emission here. We can either use color or also weight. Let me use the color. So I'm gonna command click this little circle here to get the input. And then I'm gonna throw that in here. So in this case, we need to render to see what's happening. Let me solo this. There we go. So the information is there. We just didn't see it because the weight of the emission is set to 0. Let me bring this up to 1. And now we also see it when we deactivate the solo switch here. And then I would just double click again and create a ramp, because we can use the ramp as a colorizer. And in here, let me just bring this up again. We just need, again, to bring in the white and to move the black to here. And there we go. Same effect. And yeah, but this time in Redshift. Okie doke. I think we have this one. Do you have another one?
Yeah, let's go. We're just starting. Okay.
We're just starting. Well, let's say we can show more setups for, let's say, 10 minutes, for another 10 minutes, and then
why?
Because I need to leave.
No, you're not going anywhere. So a few quick questions. Any questions about features that are coming in the future and all that? We can't, even if we know, we can't say, and we don't know. So that's that. So that we've done that, and let's go down. There was a question about alias wavefront. Just make your name shorter. It's a bit long. This technique to be modified somehow to select all the pentagons of platonic over face. Oh, that's a good question. Hit me up on Twitter, DM me, and we can see. Okay. You can animate the selection over time. Yes. Now,
yeah, I showed that.
Good.
I didn't show it with the selection, but I showed it with the Mogra setup, then with a formula effector, and it would work the very same way with the selection. You could just type in the very same formula.
Yeah. So, Majid, I'm my user and new to Cinema 4D. Do you have any advice to make the transition a bit faster? Cineversity, watch the shows, ask the questions, and don't worry, if you've managed to stay alive this long, you'll have a great time in Cinema 4D. So that wasn't a jab.
Just let me go to Cineversity here to show that, and I'm also going to paste the Cineversity link again.
Okay.
So here we go. That's
box of chocolates.
University.
I read that. Box of chocolates. Alternative to Metaball. where the object reacts to proximity.
May I
of another
interject again? Because
Yeah, please.
Cineversity is not the only place where you can learn it. Of course, here we have these great Getting Started series, like also the Getting Started in Cinema 4D, which I recommend you to watch. But also the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel is the place where we share our knowledge, and there's a lot of stuff that you can learn here. All right.
Shall I take the screen?
You can take the screen. Yes.
Boom. Okay, I'm going to show this in a second because it's very easy. So I'm going to create suspense.
It looks incredible.
Box of chocolates. Oh, I clicked new browser. Okay. So yes, there is an alternative to Metaballs, but Metaballs or volumes, which I'm going to show you, don't deform an object. So I'm going to show you both ways. Number one is volumes. So you can have two spheres. You can put them in.
Did we bring up the question already on screen? I don't think so. Let me.
Boom. Is an alternative to a metaball where the object reacts to the proximity of another and deforms. Yes, but first I'm going to show you the metaball alternative. Although we do have metaballs, we have something better, which is volumes. So volume builder, spheres 1 and 2, drag them in, and they're going to be, we're going to put lines, then put a volume mesher. To mesh, this is an SDF, it's going to mesh the SDF, sign distance fields. Go into University and watch my series on notes. So now this is a metaball. Bloop, 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 bloop. Nice. Now, the good thing about this is that you can do Booleans. So instead of union, you can have subtract. So let's bring this closer to the other one. Like bloop, 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 bloop. So this looks like a deformation. It's not. And you can stack these up and do whatever you want. And in the volume builder, you can put in mesh objects, spline objects, particles, fields, all the stuff. Right. What is the proximity thingy-madoodle you asked for? I like to work in hexahedrons and dodecahedrons and icosahedrons because they're all derived from Greek words. And by the way, I'm Greek. There you go. So what we have is a collision.
You're gonna throw $1 into a glass whenever you mention that.
Why don't we change the rules? Whenever I mention it, everyone else throws, I don't know, $100 into my cup, right? So the idea is good, but I'm just so there's a collision deformer somewhere here. Collision. I cannot find any deformer explosion. Collision. And you apply the collision to one of your two spheres. So in this one, and in the collision deformer, you tell it which object it's going to collide with. And oops, where's my colliders? There you go. You know that if you drag an object from here, so I've got the collision, I'm clicking and dragging, I can hover over these and it will open these up. Isn't that fantastic? I can do this all day. Intersect. So now if I move this, it's going to push this closer. Let me hide this little guy. Whoop, 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 whoop. And you just go to the various modes and depending on what you do, outside. Outside keeps it strictly outside, so it's not going to fold in itself. And yeah, ways to do that. So between these two methods, you can use soft bodies, you know, and all that. So I hope your question has been answered. Boom, there goes one. Now, there's another question that says that you put a question. So there we go, show. I use a line to spline tag for a motion with a keyframe, but when I put it in the cloner, the effectors, I can't affect it. I'm not going to talk about the step effectors and all that, but I'm going to show you what happens. So I have this animation here, right? Very simple cone with an align to spline, with an animated position, tangential, and a helix. And you would say, okay, I want to take this and make 5 of these. So you add a cloner and you're excited and you press play and nothing happens. This is because by definition, a cloner takes over the matrix of an object, the position, scale, and rotation. So anything that's been applied using animation and whatnot, especially procedural animation, it doesn't get propagated. And this little button here on the cloner, reset coordinates, is the one that gives authority to the cloner to do that. If I uncheck the reset now I have a bunch of things here. Now, in terms of the step effector, I don't know exactly what you want to do. If you, I'm gonna make some assumptions here. You want to use a step effector to put these in different positions of their trajectory. So you want one here, you want one here, you want one here, and so forth. Unless you bake this to keyframes, that will the animation mode work? Let's try this. So let's try a plane effector. The cloner needs to be in the transform animation mode. Play will play the animation. If you put fixed, you surrender the timeline to the effectors, but you need to tell the effector to it's not modify clone, it's time offset. But I don't think it's going to work. It's not going to offset anything. Okay, it's not offsetting anything. What I may need to do, I'm going to show you how to do it after a second. So parameter, offset, no, it has to be a keyframe animation. So how can we make this work? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the blend mode, which is one of my favorite modes in MoGraph. I have cone 1, which has a position of 0. Cone 1.3257 ABC, I just came up with this name, is going to have a position of 100%. And let's see what I can do here. 1 is in the start and 1 is in the end. If I tell this cloner to generate one instance and blend, then I can use a plane effector set to modify clone, and it does a linear transformation. That's odd. So I would have assumed that it's going to blend the parameters, but apparently it doesn't. It doesn't blend tags. So I am rather surprised with this. So forget about this method. If there's something particular you wanted with the step effector to do that is related to what I showed you previously with the reset coordinates, did I? No. Okay. Just DM me on Twitter with a simplified scene file. On Twitter, you'll find me at NosemanGR, and I usually reply to questions. I don't give anyone money or my bank account details, but in terms of Cinema 4D, I usually reply. So what else? Let's go to the wrecking ball, which is basically how do we create something hanging from something and so forth. Now let's talk about limitations. And the limitations are that during a rope simulation or a mesh simulation, a cloth simulation, Cinema 4D's points do not have orientation. It's just a position in the world. So if I attach this to this with one string and go here and create this. So usually what happens is that the sphere, in this particular case, it's pretty okay. But in certain cases, these things start spinning around uncontrollably. There's no constraint in terms of the rotation of the sphere, as you would expect from a physical object. So the way to do that is to create something that has more than one point of contact. That's why I made a cloner in Radial. I add 3 or 4 of these. You can expand them to create a bit more stability. You can hide this later on and just put a little fake one in the middle. I create an object which is a cloth object with pinned animation, the rude mix animation. Stay there. And I'm going to create a few more of these. I've made a rope out of these lines. I added a connector. Let's generate. And now, because these ropes have more than one point of contact and they collide amongst themselves, they will create a more stable rotating sphere. So even if I add some sort of rotational force, see a rotation, it rotates on the Z, something like that. Let's do that. Let's set it to force. Let's see what's going to happen here. Oh, that wasn't a good idea because it's trying to spin it the other way. No rotation. I deleted the wrong thing. But you can have a lot of fun with simulations. But if you want your,
cool.
structures, it does look cool. I have to admit, go here, add a vibrate tag in rotation mode, make it rotate that way and this way. And yeah, you get this, set the frequency to something lower and do that and do that. And you can make a nice little wrecking ball, and you can imitate the chain using maybe, what can you use for the chain? Maybe you can have another cloth, another rope that's connected to these two things right in the middle, and use that as your rendering rope. So you just go and create one more end-sided, rotate it 90 degrees this way, over there, make this a rope, and it's getting connected. Yeah, I think it's getting connected. Let's go to the connector here and update, see if that connects. Oh, it didn't connect. So let's do that very easily. Grab the same connect here and create the connections for this one. So now it's attached to both sides. You can change the number of segments to make it a bit more floppy or a bit more rigid. You can hide this. This is just your structural component, and this is your holder. Just hide them, and you can do this. Oh, stop breaking. Let's go and create more and expand it and create. Oops, I think I made. Oh, here's a good example. I can exclude my cloner. Oh, I need to exclude the tag, right? Something that always gets me. You don't exclude objects, you exclude the simulation. So exclude that tag. Let's go and create. So now it's only attached here and here. So to the top and the bottom object. And there you go. Ooh, that looks interesting. That's because I think I put too much stress on that point. Increase the number, create. I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe I need to allow it for stretchiness. Remember when I said I'm putting too much? Let's go for stretchiness 5 and see what happens here. Is it going to work? No, it doesn't. Oh, well. That is interesting. Jonas, do you have any ideas about that? Why it's doing that? It's falling from both. Okay, I just need to look into that. But the idea would be to use this with a sweep or something like that to make it work. But the main aspect of this is the structures that will keep your sphere from spinning because you have more than one thing's holding it together. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. So that is aligned to spline. Platonic pentagons could be potentially. We need to look at that. So Quest, I have imported vector files. I'm wondering about different ways to display the imported 3D version of that file other than 90-degree squared object. I don't know exactly what you mean. Let's assume you imported this as a spline because that's how it will come in, unless you use the Adobe Illustrator import. If you want to make any spline into an object, the default place to go is the extrude generator. Make it a child, and this will create this. And you can add some caps, rounding, and do all sorts of interesting things. Here you can see the topology. You can change how thick the object is. You can have caps in the front or the back or not. You can have separate controls where one side is flat or has a different thing. So there are many things you could do. Maybe you don't want to create a solid extrude. Maybe you want to create some neon, right? Let's assume you imported some text that says text. That's quite unique. So this is just a spline, just like the one you can import. And maybe you want to make this into neon. Okay, so first of all, go open the spline. So it's got gaps. then go here and get a little circle. Make the circle small, and then say, I want to sweep the circle along the other splines. So you get a sweep generator. You say, this is the object we are sweeping, the so-called profile, and this is the sweep I'm going to do. And there's a ton of stuff you can do here. For this, you can subdivide your spline. Let's go for the uniform subdivision. You can lessen the number of points here. What else you can do? You can go to the sweep and say in the object, you can change the scale in different parts. So you can make some sort of weird thing like this.
Another thing that many people don't know is when they need to get more granular than this, to have more detail there, is that you can pop out the spline interface into a separate window.
Yep. You go here. This is a spline GUI. You right click and you say show in a separate window. You put it on your screen, on your other screen, on your 8K screen, and now
the ultra wide one.
The ultra wide
the
one.
Gazillion by 1.
Exactly.
Screen.
That's the one I was talking about. And now you have better granularity. You can zoom in. You can zoom in, zoom out, and do all sorts of weird things. And at the same time, you can see this. Anyway, there is too many things you can do with splines than we can mention here. So if you have any specific examples, again, you can always send an email to training@maxon.net, and this comes into an inbox where we all have access to, or hit me up on Twitter if you want to go public. Okay, Metaballs, vector files.
I think we have it pretty much, right?
Hi from Toronto.
Hi to Toronto.
Hi to Toronto. Yep. All right.
All right.
There we go. We have a couple more things. All right, quickly.
Yeah, quickly, because I really I have to.
Let's see if
you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I'm using matrix set to object. The object is a spline in a simple network shape. Forward, left, right, mating both. Part 2. This is too complicated for 2 minutes. Send me the file. Send us the file.
We can also
so we can
also just copy it out so that we can get to it next time.
Yes.
So here we go. Let me quickly grab that one. All right.
There's an interesting question from Sandra. The OSL. So generally, if anyone is into OSL, if you go to GitHub and look up the Redshift OSL repository, there are a lot of OSL examples which you can use in Redshift that do all sorts of fancy things. So go to GitHub. I don't think you need an account to check things out. Look for Redshift OSL nodes, and there are 50, 60, 100, I'm not even sure. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to grab the screen now. So let me
take the screen.
Going to take the screen to.
Do I need to mute myself?
Please. Yes, please. All right. So I'm here on the Maxon events page. I'm also gonna paste that link here into the chat again. So if you want to find out all the cool things that we're doing live streams, like this cool live stream that just happened, or this cool live stream that is gonna happen tomorrow, VFX and Chill, or the many live streams or the many presentations that are gonna be streamed next week from NAB. Or here, demystifying post-production next Monday, and a lot more things. If you want to learn more about this, just visit our events page. And then here, this is the main Maxon YouTube channel. Here you can yeah, click the Notify Me button for all the NAB presentations. There's going to be a lot of great stuff in there because we have many, many great artists there. All of them, except for the two of us. And yes, so the next thing would be the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, where you can watch the recordings and everything, yeah, we create here, or many of the things we create here, the recordings of the live streams, quick tips, and so on. So this is here when you want to catch up. Then if you want to learn Cinema 4D or any other Maxon application, if you want to learn Redshift, if you want to learn ZBrush or Universe or Forger, VFX, Magic Bullet, Trapcode, everything, you can just go to the to Cineversity. Let me also just paste in the link here. There we go. And yeah, the last thing I want to show is the Ask the Trainer exclusive wear store. This is the one where you can get a free t-shirt. And all you need to do is you need to click that link that I just pasted and enter the passcode. And then you are allowed to order one t-shirt for free, and you only have to pay for the shipping. And that's pretty much it for today. I just want to say thank you for watching this. And even when you are catching up by watching the recording, thanks for watching the recording. Also, thanks to Dr. Sassi, who is always creating the timestamps for all of our live streams and make the content much more like approachable for everyone. So that's a really, really cool thing. Thanks, Dr. Sassi. Yeah,
thank you.
And with that being said, thanks to everyone for watching this again. Thanks,
a quick suggestion, because as you can see, questions pile up and we go in tangents and all that, and there's never enough time. Whenever you see the show, just go on Twitter, post your questions under the announcement, so we can prepare some things and
yes.
Move through this faster, or
yes.
just join us anytime you want. If you want more ATTs, ask, or AMAs, ask me anything, please let us know.
Yes, let us know. I'm going to do the same thing. Great. So, goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Toodaloo.
Bye.